I always hated events like this, not because I was shy or lacked manners or couldn't handle people. I could. I did. More often than not, I was the quiet one in the corner, drink in hand, nodding politely as someone explained something I didn't care about. I knew how to blend into a room without disappearing. It was a talent Vivian used to say she admired. Used to. Now, she mostly just sighed when she looked at me, or gave that tight-lipped, performative smile, the kind people give their toddler in a restaurant when they start knocking over the salt shaker. She was already dressed when I came downstairs. Emerald green, figure-hugging, dangerously elegant, like something from a perfume ad that ends in the sound of a champagne glass breaking. "You're wearing that jacket?" she asked as soon as I walked in. I looked down at myself. Dark gray blazer, clean white shirt, black pants. I hadn't worn a tie. True, I hated them. But I looked fine. "I thought it was a semi-formal wedding," I replied. Vivian gave a short, derisive exhale, not quite a laugh, more like a statement. She didn't say anything else, just grabbed her clutch, her phone, and the car keys. We were apparently taking her car, again. By the time I slid into the passenger seat, she had already adjusted the mirror twice. Her lipstick was flawless, but she reapplied anyway. A ritual more than a necessity. "You don't have to look so miserable," she said, eyes still fixed on her reflection. I watched her in the mirror, the way her lips pursed slightly when she concentrated, the way her fingers held the tube of lipstick like a scalpel. "I'm not miserable," I answered, just mentally preparing. "For what? Compliments and free champagne?" she said, clicking the lipstick shut. "It's a wedding, Jude, not a tax audit." I could have told her the truth, that her friends exhausted me, that they made me feel like an exhibit she brought out once in a while to prove she had settled, that I'd rather sit in silence with a good book than make forced small talk about someone's vacation in Sardinia. But instead, I said nothing, just looked out the window. Vivian started the engine, the car filled with the thumping bass of some electronic remix, something cold and polished like glass over steel. Her playlist, not mine. She glanced at me as she pulled out of the driveway. "Try not to be so, you tonight, okay?" I turned to her. "So, me?" She smirked. "You know, broody, introspective. That whole quiet genius with a storm inside thing. It's not sexy in real life, Jude. It's just awkward at a party." I wanted to laugh, but I didn't. "You married me," I said. Vivian shrugged, shifting gears. I was younger, thought it was deep. Silence stretched between us like a thin layer of ice, fragile, waiting to break. I rolled down the window a little, just enough to let the warm evening air touch my face. It smelled like summer and asphalt and the faint trace of cut grass. "Can you not?" she snapped suddenly. "It messes up my hair." I rolled it back up, not because she asked, but because I didn't want to argue. Not this early in the evening, not when we had hours of pretending ahead of us. She adjusted the AC vents instead, muttering something under her breath. Then, louder, "Just try to be normal tonight. Smile when people talk to you. Don't go into one of your weird tangents about loneliness or morality or whatever. And maybe, just maybe, let someone else talk about themselves without making it philosophical." I stared ahead. The road was long and straight, lit by dying daylight. Everything felt like it was slipping away. Even her voice sounded farther than it should have been. "I'll try," I said softly. She looked at me for a second, then back at the road. "That's all I ask." The venue was some kind of restored barn, all exposed beams and white fairy lights, the kind of place that screams rustic elegance on Pinterest boards. I hated it immediately. Vivian, on the other hand, looked like she belonged in every photo. Her heels clicked confidently against the wood floor. Her hand never reached for mine. Instead, she touched my elbow like a guide dog maneuvering someone blind. I was the accessory tonight, a living handbag. "Try to smile," she whispered as we approached the main crowd. "You look like you're at a eulogy." Maybe for my dignity, I muttered. What? Nothing. She didn't press. She never really listened when I spoke quietly, which was most of the time. The bride, a bubbly blonde named Cora, whom I'd met twice but apparently was like a sister to Vivienne, ran over squealing. Hugs, shrieks, compliments about the dress, the skin, the perfume. I stood a step behind, doing what I did best, fading out, occasionally nodding, smiling when directly looked at. "Jude," Cora finally said, turning to me, "you clean up so well." "Thanks," I said. "You look stunning." Vivian arched a brow, clearly surprised I managed a full sentence. As the evening dragged on, I kept trying to stay useful. I offered to take pictures, held Vivian's clutch while she reapplied lipstick, fetched her drinks. I avoided eye contact with the groomsmen, all of whom looked like they came from the same gym-tan gene pool. At one point, Vivian leaned in and whispered, "You can loosen up, you know. You don't have to act like my assistant." I blinked. "I'm just trying to help." "Try being interesting. That would help more." She walked away before I could respond. Hours passed. Dinner was served. People grew louder, happier, more inebriated. I drank half a glass of wine the whole night, not out of principle, but because I knew I'd need my mind sharp. Around Vivian, you never knew when the rug would be pulled. Then came the moment, a call for toasts. The best man gave a sweet, clumsy speech. A few others followed, and then someone handed Vivian the microphone. "Oh no," I said aloud. She stood confidently, too confidently. Glass in one hand, mic in the other, all smiles. Her green dress shimmered under the soft amber lights, and her voice rang clear, commanding the room's attention instantly. "I wasn't going to speak," she began. "But then I remembered I've been married for 8 years and made every mistake in the book. So why not offer some wisdom?" Laughter, polite, affectionate. She was charming, and she knew it. I watched her. There was a slight tension in my chest, like I was holding my breath and didn't know why yet. "Marriage," she continued, pacing lightly, "isn't just about love or passion. It's about partnership, growth. It's about knowing when to speak and when to pretend you didn't hear something stupid." More laughter. She was warming up. "Ladies," she said, locking eyes with the bride, "marry someone who lifts you up, who inspires you, who reminds you who you are when the world tries to tell you otherwise." Not bad, I thought. Maybe she'll keep it graceful. Then she turned her gaze toward me. "And whatever you do," she said, pausing dramatically, "marry someone who makes you feel like a woman, not like his mother." A pause, the kind that splits seconds into hours. Then the laughter came, loud, unfiltered, brutal. Some clapped. One of the bridesmaids choked on her drink. I felt every eye shift in my direction, some awkwardly, some with thin smiles. One guy raised his eyebrows like he was witnessing a live roast. I tried to smile. It came out as a twitch. Vivian lowered the mic like a sword, lips curled in triumph, and sat down next to me without looking. I wanted to speak, to say anything, but all I could do was stare at the base of my wine glass. She leaned toward me and whispered, "Relax." It was a joke. I looked at her, slowly, calmly. "Yeah," I said. "Hilarious." She clinked her glass against mine with a smirk, and the night went on around us. Music swelling, people cheering, and me sitting there in a suit that suddenly felt like a straitjacket. The car ride home was nearly silent. Vivian drove like nothing happened, one hand on the wheel, the other scrolling through her phone at red lights, occasionally smiling to herself, probably reading texts from her friends. "You killed it tonight." That line about the mother, iconic. I sat beside her, staring out into the blur of streetlights, city windows, and the occasional billboard advertising a brand of life that never really included people like me. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't say, "Sorry if that went too far." She didn't even glance at me. I don't know what I expected. Maybe a quiet apology, or at least that slight tone in her voice when she realized she'd pushed it. But it never came. The only words she said the entire 35-minute drive were, "Do you mind grabbing the dry cleaning tomorrow?" That was it. No mention of the wedding. No mention of the toast. No mention of the way people laughed at me like I was a punchline in her sitcom. I nodded without looking at her. Sure. We pulled into the garage. She got out, heels echoing against concrete, humming some song stuck in her head. I lingered in the car for a moment longer. When I came inside, she was already upstairs. I heard water running, probably washing off the perfume and spotlight. Her night was over. Mine was still echoing. I stood in the kitchen for a while, not doing anything. The silence of the house was thick. I could still hear the laughter, sharp, echoing, stuck in my head like a nail. Not like his mother. It wasn't even the first time she'd said something like that. Not that exact phrase, but the tone, the meaning. Why do I have to explain everything to you? Do I have to do everything myself? You're supposed to be the man, Jude. Not always in anger, sometimes in a sigh, sometimes with a laugh, sometimes with that same smile she gave the crowd tonight, the one that said, "I know better, and you're just here to witness it." I nodded without looking at her. Sure. We pulled into the garage. She got out, heels echoing against concrete, humming some song stuck in her head. I lingered in the car for a moment longer. When I came inside, she was already upstairs. I heard water running, probably washing off the perfume and spotlight. Her night was over. Mine was still echoing. I stood in the kitchen for a while, not doing anything. The silence of the house was thick. I could still hear the laughter, sharp, echoing, stuck in my head like a nail. Not like his mother. It wasn't even the first time she'd said something like that. Not that exact phrase, but the tone, the meaning. Why do I have to explain everything to you? Do I have to do everything myself? You're supposed to be the man, Jude. Not always in anger, sometimes in a sigh, sometimes with a laugh, sometimes with that same smile she gave the crowd tonight, the one that said, "I know better, and you're just here to witness it." "It's not always about you," she snapped. "I was giving advice. If you're offended, maybe that says more about you than me." I turned to her fully now, calm, still, but burning inside. "Vivienne, do you even like me anymore?" She blinked, like the question was a language she no longer spoke. "Where is this coming from?" "It's been coming for a while. I felt it tonight. Like I'm not your husband anymore. Just the soft thing you lean on when you're tired of being adored." She shook her head and laughed. Laughed. Like I was being dramatic. "Jude, you're overthinking everything. Again." Maybe, or maybe I finally started thinking clearly. She rolled her eyes and reached for her tablet again. "I'm going to bed. If you're still in your feelings tomorrow, we can talk." That was it. Dismissed. Like a student at the end of office hours. I didn't sleep that night. I laid beside her, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of her soft breathing. She looked peaceful. I felt like I was dying quietly inside. The next morning, Vivienne was already gone by the time I came downstairs. Her absence didn't feel unusual. It felt convenient. The house was silent. Too silent for a Saturday. Usually she'd have music playing, coffee half finished on the counter, shoes kicked off near the door, the scent of her perfume still lingering like she owned the air itself. Not today. Today, the house felt like it had already been left. I walked around slowly, barefoot, letting my fingertips trail across the cold granite countertop. I could still smell her perfume in the air, that sweet, cool sharpness that used to turn my head. Now it turned my stomach. Her green dress from the night before was draped over the back of a chair like a snake shedding its skin. Elegant, careless, dangerous. I stood there staring at it for a full minute before walking upstairs. I opened the closet. My side was modest. A few jackets, shirts, jeans, everything hung with quiet restraint. Hers was a gallery, color-coded, lined with heels, purses, silk, leather. Every inch of that space reminded me how small I'd become in this marriage, spatially, emotionally, spiritually. I took out a single duffel bag, the same one I used to bring when we'd go on weekend trips, back when we still pretended we were trying. Now it would carry something heavier than clothes. As I folded shirts, socks, the gray sweater she used to, I heard the garage door open. Vivian was home. I paused, heart suddenly louder than the zipper in my hand. She came in humming, heels clicking, bags rustling. "Hey," she called from downstairs. "They had your dumb almond milk this time. You're welcome." No reply from me. A few seconds later, she was on the stairs. "Jude?" Silence. "Are you—" She stopped in the doorway. I was by the dresser, holding a stack of folded clothes. The duffel was already half full. "What are you doing?" she asked. I looked at her. "Packing." She blinked, then laughed. "You're joking." "No." "You're seriously going to sulk over a toast?" I didn't respond. I zipped the bag slowly, deliberately. The sound seemed deafening in the quiet room. "Wow," she said, arms crossed. "So you're running away. Again. That's mature." "I'm not running," I said calmly. "I'm leaving." "Same thing." "No, running is fear. This is clarity." She scoffed and walked in, standing across from me like we were in a negotiation. What happened to talking things out, Jude? What happened to being the emotionally intelligent one? I picked up a folded piece of paper from the nightstand and handed it to her. She hesitated. "What's this?" "My side of the conversation." She unfolded the note, read it. Her mouth tightened. There, in my handwriting, 5 simple words. "Thank you for the toast." I finally heard the truth. Silence. Vivian looked up slowly. Her lips parted, maybe to respond, maybe to defend, maybe to beg, but nothing came out. For the first time in years, I was the one who turned and walked away first. Down the stairs, out the door, into my car. No drama, no scene, just peace, and the echo of my own footsteps. The first I'd heard in a long time that didn't sound like retreat. I didn't drive far, just enough to feel the road erase the weight of her voice behind me. The hotel was nothing special, a mid-range place by the highway with beige walls, stiff pillows, and a vending machine that ate your money if you looked at it wrong. But the moment I shut the door behind me and heard it click, it felt better than home had in months. I dropped my duffel on the floor, kicked off my shoes, and sat at the edge of the bed. Silence, but not the suffocating kind we shared at the dinner table. This one was neutral, undemanding, finally mine. I exhaled. Then my phone lit up. Vivian. I stared at the screen. It rang 5 times. I let it go. Then again. This time with a text. "Call me now." I sighed, unlocked the phone, and tapped the green icon. "Jude," she said instantly. "Where the hell are you?" Her voice was sharp, not panicked, angry, like I'd broken some unspoken rule. "Gone," I said simply. "Don't be dramatic." I stayed quiet. "You had your little moment, okay? You packed a bag, stormed off, made your point. Now come back and stop acting like a child." That did it. I sat up straighter, stared at the wall, and said, not loud, not cruel, just clear, "I'm not your child, Vivian, and you're not my mother. So stop talking to me like you get to decide where I go." Silence on the line. She didn't know how to respond to that. She was used to my silence, not my spine. I continued, still calm. "You don't get to humiliate me in front of 60 people and then call me dramatic for walking away." "It was a joke," she hissed. "No, Vivian. A joke makes people laugh with you. That room laughed at me, because you fed me to them like a punchline." "So what? You're leaving over one line? That's pathetic." "It wasn't one line. It was the last line." Another silence, heavier now. Then colder. "You're seriously willing to blow up our marriage over a speech?" "No," I said. "You blew it up. I'm just finally stepping out of the rubble." Click. I ended the call. No shouting. No final word from her. just silence again. But now, peace. I leaned back against the headboard. The walls were still beige, the pillow still stiff. But for the first time in a long time, I slept like I wasn't being watched, judged, or reduced. I slept like a man, not someone's child, not someone's burden, not someone's lesson, just Jude. It's been 2 months since the divorce. No lawyers fought, no tears were shed, no furniture was broken. Vivian signed the papers in silence. Not because she agreed, but because deep down, she never imagined I'd follow through. She thought I was bluffing, but I wasn't. I rented a 1-bedroom apartment near the lake. I bought a second-hand leather chair that creaks when I sit in it, and a coffee machine that only I use. There's no gold-trimmed anything, no curated color palettes, just books, music, and quiet. And when I speak, the walls don't respond with rolled eyes or sarcastic sighs. They just listen. Vivian tried to call a few times in the first month. Once she left a voicemail. I didn't listen to it. Some things are better left unheard, especially when you've already heard enough. Last I heard, she's dating someone new, a corporate type, talks loud, smiles too wide, the kind of man she used to mock behind closed doors. I hope he likes to be corrected. I hope he asks permission before speaking. Me? I haven't started dating again. Not because I'm bitter, just content. I used to think love was about sacrifice, about compromise, about holding your tongue so the other person could find theirs. Now I think love is what survives after the laughter fades and the room gets quiet. And if someone laughs at you, not with you, they were never really in the room with you to begin with. People say I've changed. I smile more, speak more, even dress better somehow. But I didn't change. I just stopped shrinking, stopped apologizing for being who I am. And if she ever wonders why I left, she can replay the toast. Because that night, she didn't just lose a husband. She lost the last person who was still willing to believe she was better than her cruelty. And I walked out of a marriage